Hello everyone and welcome to the new episode of Help Me Think. My name is Tanya and this episode is going to be a bit different maybe from what I've recorded before. Although when I'll be posting this episode, when I'll be uploading it, I'm not sure what episodes I've already had because I will be posting it probably in March, because this episode is called University of Amsterdam Selection procedure, and it's going to be a diary kind of me doing this test and preparing for the exam. I'm just going to record every day my little progress, where my stance is, what I'm doing currently, and I'm just gonna document it. So for the context, I'm applying for University of Amsterdam, UVA, for the next year, so September 2025, this year already, next academic year, for psychology, a bachelor, and it is numerous fixes, meaning that there is only 600 places for the program, and that is why everyone who's applying has to go through a selection procedure, which consists of online lectures. You can also attend them offline if you're in Amsterdam, if you want to see the uni, but I did them online because I'm in London currently. And then you've got 1 week to prepare for the test, and then you've got the test, and it's also online. Right, so let's officially start this episode. Bam. Cool, started, nice. So today is the 5th of February 2025. It is Wednesday. The lectures happened on Friday, so last Friday was the 31st of January. It was 2 lectures, each something about 2 hours. I didn't really time it, but I think it was something like 2 hours each. It was 2 topics. Introduction into psychology, which was about consciousness. So one topic is consciousness and the other one is research methods, and the main subtopic was observations, and it was about different types of observations, the advantages and disadvantages, difference between observations, experiments, so all that kind of stuff, which I thought was boring. But it is actually, because I thought it was boring because we've done it already in school. Probably not everything that they've covered in the lecture, but a big part of it, and it's not really hard to, understand, so you don't really need to know much, like key terms and stuff. So if you just basically understand it, it makes sense. And the other topic was consciousness, which is a bit harder because in general it's a bit of a harder concept. So consciousness, dreaming, altered states of consciousness, which is under the influence of drugs or alcohol or meditations or hypnosis, and research into it. So it is in general harder to research, and there is also more of terms and studies that I wasn't familiar with, which makes it a bit harder. But also it is so interesting, whilst I was listening to the lecture, and also there is 2 reading materials. So to each lecture, to each topic, there is a reading material from a textbook or from a book, and one was 58 pages. I saw it and I was like, oh my god, 58 pages for a research method and 45 pages for the consciousness, and you've got 1 week, so from Friday evening to Saturday morning, to prepare for it. So you need to read through it. It is obligatory, so you have to, there's going to be content on the test. There's going to be questions on the test about the reading content as well. So the lecture included some of the content that is in the reading. There wasn't actually really much of a new information, other than was included in the reading, but it just kind of explained it better in the lecture. So the lecturer kind of just elaborated on it, and it was easier to understand, I guess. But it does not mean that you don't have to read it. Like, there is a lot to read. And then there is a test on Saturday morning, like I said, and it consists of 60 multiple choice questions, which was a huge relief when I found out that's going to be only multiple choice questions, because it means you don't have to write anything. You don't really, obviously you need to know, the key terms and the definitions, but you don't need to know kind of the right way to write, the spelling of a key term or of a study or something, because it is gonna be basically either in the answer or in the question itself. So that's one thing. And also a thing that I just loved that the second lecturer said in the end of the lecture, he said you do not need to know any names. So you might need to know like Freud, like things that you will know anyways, kind of, but there's not going to be a question like, what did this and this guy, what experiment did they conduct, or what study did they conduct, or like who conducted this and this study. Like, there's not going to be a question like that. And I loved it because it is such a huge difference from what A-level psychology is. You need to know so many names. For people who are not familiar with psychology A-levels, it's a lot of names. I couldn't tell you how many, but I've got flashcards. Nah, I couldn't tell you honestly, but it's so many names, because you just need to use them for evaluations, for case studies, for like explanation of theories, and then to support them or provide evidence against the theories. And it is so many names, and it's such a relief to not have to memorize all the names in that reading, because there are so many, it would be impossible. So that kind of makes sense that you don't have to memorize all of them, because every third, maybe fifth sentence, it is a reference to a person, and if you had to know all those names, no way. Anyways, after you've read all the lectures, after you've read all the reading materials, which I'm not done with yet, which I haven't done yet, you've got to somehow figure out how to prepare for the test, basically what you've been doing your whole school life. But what I chose to do, I chose to make flashcards, because that's something that I discovered recently, that it actually helps me a lot, that it's actually a way that I can use and that I can utilize for my studying. I know it doesn't work for everyone. I know that everybody has different studying techniques, and flashcards, I feel like for some people it just works so well and it's just the best method there is, and for some people it just doesn't bring them anything. It just doesn't work for them, but for me, I feel like it does work. I also saw it somewhere on YouTube. I actually know where I saw it. I'm gonna put a link in the description, because I really like this girl's videos. She's just finished her medicine studies, her medicine uni, and she posts, she makes videos about how to study skills, study techniques, just productivity and stuff. And I've taken quite a lot from her videos, and that's what I saw recently, how to prepare and how to make your studying more efficient. So she said that you basically make flashcards during the lecture. You also read the reading before the lecture, but I did not have that. You make flashcards during the lecture. You've got tons of flashcards in the end, and then you start going through them in Anki, because Quizlet is a great tool, but it does not do the spatial repetition, I think it's called. I think many of you know how Anki works, but if you don't, so basically you have a card, and then usually normal flashcard, you turn it over, you see the answer, and then you put in one of 4 categories. It's either again if you got it wrong and it comes up again in 1 minute, or you've got hard, or good, or easy. So the first time, let's say, when you get it right, you put it in good, in the green pile, and then you get the card in 15 minutes or something. If you press hard, you get it in 8 minutes, and if you press again, you get it in 1 minute. And then if you get this card in 15 minutes and you get it good again, then you get it in like several hours, and then basically you get it the next day, then you get it like 3 days later, and so on. And then at some point you just have it like 3 weeks later. And basically if you do your cards every day, then you're supposed to really memorize it all in your long-term memory. And this really works so far for me. Like, it's been working. I've been doing my maths flashcards with some formula, some identities, and it's been working quite well for me. Also in Anki you can draw, so that was why I actually started using it for maths, because I could write, on my iPad, I could write the formulae and not type them in, because it's so exhausting, and it just takes so long, and it's just so stupid to type the formula in, because it looks awful, and unless you have like a special program, but I don't have that, so I wanted to like actually write it, like scribble it myself. So yeah, Anki, my recommendation, not sponsored sadly, but anyways, my recommendation to use. Although so far I couldn't tell you if it actually works that well, because I have not done any exams yet, but I know that flashcards work for me because I've been doing it for names, exactly for psychology, to memorize the names and the studies, and that's been working well. Anyhow, back to my methods of basically me studying. During the lectures, I've done some flashcards. Just during they were talking, the professors, I made some flashcards in Anki with kind of the questions that might come up, or not even questions that might come up, but just, with the definitions, and then just some things that I think might not come up in this exact question, because it's going to be multiple choice, obviously, so I can't really know what the question's going to look like, but kind of like the things that I think might come up in some form. That was on Friday. On Saturday, I started reading the consciousness reading. I read it on my iPad, and I marked, just like highlighted the places that I thought was important to put in the flashcards. So I had one color for basically the definition, kind of like the question, like let's say there's a key term, so I highlighted with the green, and then the answer to that question, or what I want to put on the back side of the flashcard, I marked it, I highlighted it with the yellow, and I read through 10 pages, then I made flashcards for that, and then I read through another like 5 pages. So in the first day, on Saturday, I spent quite a while with it, because my brain wasn't, I was just so slow. I felt like I was reading so slowly, so I think I got only through 15 pages of the first reading, and I put it in the flashcards. On Sunday, I think I got another like 20 pages or something of consciousness, and also just reading and putting in some of the flashcards. And also on Sunday, I went through the flashcards from the lecture of consciousness, because research methods I was quite secure about, like I was quite sure that I know it kind of, so I know it quite well, and I just need to go through the flashcards a couple times so I can do it literally on like Thursday or Friday, before the test. So this is not really my big concern. Afterwards, on Monday, I started reading the research methods reading, and let me tell you, these textbooks are so fun to read. They are so much more fun than just school textbooks that I've had before that always. Especially the research methods. It doesn't even look like it's a textbook. I mean, I don't know what it looks like because I've got it on PDF, but it doesn't sound like a textbook really. So obviously there's some references, but it's basically just like a non-fiction book that I would read, with examples of different observations of different experiments. And it's so fun because you just you read different studies of different types of studies, like examples for different types of studies, and you memorize it, like you just understand it. And by examples, you just memorize it so much better because you just understand it and you're like, oh, so this is the difference. So, this study with fish is this type, and this study with these women was this type. Yeah, it makes sense because they explain it so well, and it's actually fun to read. And as well as the textbook, because this is a textbook about consciousness, because those are different ones. And the only thing is kind of like that I have a test on Saturday, which will decide my next 3 years, what I'm going to be, what I'm going to do, what uni I'm going to go to, So that's kind of a bit pressuring and a bit unnerving, but the reading itself is actually really nice and is actually really interesting, and the stuff in there, it's actually really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to going to uni because I feel like it's just going to be so different from what we're doing now in psychology, and I'm really looking forward to it. So back to the timeline. On Monday I read, I think, 10 pages or even maybe 20 pages. I'm not sure now how much I've got already. I think about 10 or 15 pages actually of the research methods reading. Also, so I read through it and I highlight the spots which I want to put in the flashcard later. On Tuesday I read another 15 pages, so I am still by the half of the research methods reading. And also on Tuesday I carried on with putting in my flashcards for consciousness, and I was almost done. And today, we're back in today, it is Wednesday today, so I've got today still a couple hours. It's 6:40 now in the evening, so I've still got a couple hours. Thursday and Friday to do that, and on Saturday morning is going to be the test. And it is the first wave, and why also I said that I'm going to post it, that I'm going to upload it later, because I don't think I'm not allowed to really talk about it, because they never said it, and obviously I'm going to tell people, I think. But there's going to be a second wave, a second, round of selection for other people in March, and I think beginning of March. And they're probably going to have different lectures, but I'd rather, not risk, and I'd rather post it just after everyone's done. And in April 15th, there's going to be a ranking number and basically the list of the first 600 people, the people who got the highest scores, and they automatically get in. And then some people who are not in the first 600, they can still get in if someone decides not to go. Basically, it's like a waiting list, basically. Right, back to the timeline. Today I finished my flashcards, making the flashcards for consciousness. I've got 151 card for reading, and I've got another, I think 20 and 30 or something, or 20 and 20 for each of the lectures. So in total I've got 190 cards, which I need to go through, to go over and actually memorize all of the information in there, or kind of try to memorize it, because I think I wrote in there kind of more than will come up, but I'd rather do that than regret it afterwards, because they do ask some little details. I'll get back to it. And today also in my plan is to finish reading the research methods, if I can actually do it, because I think it's going to take me another about 3 hours maybe of reading the last 30 pages. So that would be a plan for today, and that's it. Maybe go through some flashcards, but we'll see. Also, they had a mock test. So they have this whole website, and you've got all the materials there to download. You've got some digital learning activities that you can do as well to better understand the subject. So that's quite fun as well, but that's also something that I need to do still for sleep. There are some activities and some listening tasks as well that I have to do. And there is also mock test. So the final test is going to be 60 questions, and it's going to be for 1 hour. And there was mock tests that you could take anytime without being proctored and, without the web camera. And it was 20 questions, so 10 to each topic. And I did that yesterday, I think, or day before that. and I had 20 out of 20, and that was, I think I was on like half of the flashcards, like making flashcards for consciousness reading, and I had not started the research methods yet. And I know that it's just a mock test, and I know that it's just 20 questions and not 60, but I kind of got the idea. So that's also a good thing that they had, that you could actually see the type of questions that could come up. And that's also why I did the mock exam, not after, I felt like I was ready, but before reading the research methods, because I wanted to see in how much detail they ask it. And I think that might be a good idea for other things as well. So if you are taking an exam where you don't know the style and the type of questions that might come up, it's a good idea sometimes to do some kind of practice before you even started doing something. Maybe, just like read a couple pages, understand how the reading is, then do the test, so that you don't waste too much time on details that they just don't ask these types of questions, So if you feel like, okay, that's actually too much detail I'm going into, you're just gonna focus more on more important things, or just you're not gonna stress about the details if you know they're not important. Yeah, so that was my strategy so far. I'm gonna update this thing tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes. Hello, welcome back. It is the Thursday, the 6th of February, basically just the next day. Evening, it's 10 p.m. I've just finished going through my flashcards that I've set myself today to do. So today I made all the research methods reading flashcards. It was about 40, I think, so not that many. And I just finished going through 50 of my consciousness reading workout of my consciousness reading flashcards. I've got 153. I don't know if I said it yet, but I've got another 100 and all of the research methods. But research methods, like I said, it's really not that hard because I kind of understand the concepts, and there is not that many key terms and that stuff that could come up that I couldn't just come up with myself, by just thinking. Yeah, and that was basically what I've done today. And tomorrow my plan is to just go through flashcards. I won't have that much time tomorrow, unfortunately, but I'm just gonna go through flashcards again, and that's basically it. And Saturday morning as well, and that should be fine. I'm really tired, and I'll hear you tomorrow with a new update. Hello, part 3. Today is the 7th of February, Friday, last day before the test. I've just finished going through my 17 new flashcards for consciousness that I set myself today to do. That means that I've got 30 flashcards that I have not seen yet, you could say. I mean, I've seen them obviously when I made them, but I don't really remember what's there. And also that's all I did today. Oh no, I also went through the research methods reading flashcards. So for tomorrow the test is at 10 my time, it's 11 Amsterdam time. My plan is, because I'm feeling just really tired and I don't feel like I'm consuming much information, absorbing much information right now. So I'm gonna go to sleep now, and I'm intending to wake up tomorrow at 7-ish, and so that way I get still a couple hours to, like about an hour maybe, really to still go through the flashcards that I have not seen, because I'm kind of relying on my general understanding of the subject and on the multiple choice questions, meaning that I don't need to know all the definitions word by word, but I can just kind of understand the concept, and then I can choose or maybe rule out some of the options by just knowing, okay, that is not it for sure. That is kind of my game plan. Yeah, but I kind of still want to see all my flashcards because some of them just look so new when you look at them. Yeah, but that I'm gonna do tomorrow. And I need to do this digital learning thing for sleep as well. It's kind of like a PowerPoint, but like interactive one. But yeah, there was also a compulsory material for the test, and I've only downloaded it and I have not seen it yet really. So that's also I have to do tomorrow in the morning. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, fingers crossed. But well, gonna go to sleep and hope for the sleep powers to consolidate my memory. Right, good night. Hello. Final update. I finished the test about half an hour ago. It was quite different from what I'd expected. So the questions, it was multiple choice questions, but it was just a bit harder than the mock test. So the options given were not that obvious as in the mock test. So basically where you can say, okay, yeah, that is definitely not that, and this is definitely not that. So even if you don't know, you can just choose a third option. But yeah, it was quite tricky in a lot of cases. Research methods section was mainly, I think, half of the questions were about observer bias and observer effects and inferential bias. So just like different situations and like, is it that, is it this, and you had to choose. Or like, yeah, types of observations. That was also, or like case study, direct observation, or participant observation. And there was a couple tricky cases. But in general, overall, I think it went okay. I think it went quite well. But yeah, it's just harder to kind of like guess how it'll turn out, because basically everyone is assigned their ranking number, meaning that even if you, let's say you got 59 out of 60 and 600 other people got 60 out of 60, then you get a ranking number of 601. So you are already like out of the 600 people, and unless one of those people rejects the place, you don't get in, even though you get 59 out of 60. That's how I understand it, and I think that's how it works, because again, it's not about you getting a certain score, it's about you being in the best 600 people. That's why it's hard to estimate if I'm better than, the majority or worse than the majority, because I just don't know other people's attitude and kind of how prepared they are, or they were. And also there's going to be a second selection round, which may turn out to, be much harder or much easier, because I suppose it's going to be different topics. So I might imagine that it's just going to be completely different, and it's just gonna influence our selection round, or our people from this selection round quite a lot. But let's hope it's all fair, and I guess we'll see in April. Hello, we're back, and it is April. First of all, I think it's so funny how different I spoke. I feel like I really hear the difference how I spoke 4 months ago. But yeah. We're back in April and we got the results. First, I want to, reflect on my studying. So I said that I made flashcards on lectures and on reading, whilst also saying that basically everything that is in lectures is already in the reading. But I still made flashcards. I think that was a bit of a waste of time. It's good that I listened to the lectures because they did explain it in more detail, but I really didn't have to write everything, because in the end I had repeated flashcards for lectures and for reading, and that was a bit of a waste of time. And I also paused the lecture to make flashcards, so yeah, that was not necessary really, but I think I was just listening to this girl who I'm gonna link in the description, and I was making flashcards on the lecture. So yeah, that was a bit of a unnecessary thing. Anyhow, also I did not understand the ranking number system right, so we're gonna get to that now. I said that people who get the first 600 numbers, right, so the best 600 people definitely getting that was wrong. So on, I think, the 12th of April, I got an email with my percentage, with my actual results for the test. I didn't get the tests, marked back, but I got percentage. I think I had like 93% for research methods, or maybe for consciousness, and 89 for the other one. I think it was research methods that was worse, but I'm not sure. So like on average, let's say 91% I think it was, so not too bad. But basically that email explained the further procedure, because on the 15th of April I got my ranking number, like I said. So the whole system is as following. You sit the test, you get your percentages. The first 5% of people with the top percentages, they make up the group 1. The people with the lowest percentage, so 33% of all people who are the worst, who performed the worst, they make up the group 3, and they definitely do not get the place. So group 1 definitely gets a place in the uni, in the program, gets the offer. I think it's about 200 people or something. It also turns out there was also Dutch students, like people who applied to study in Dutch. They were also in the same selection procedure. I didn't really get the point to test them in English if they're going to study in Dutch, but whatever. So I think it was in total like 250 people or something in the top group 1. And in the bottom group 3, it was, I think, 600 something people. And the rest is group 2. And so it is 62%, I think. They make up group 2. And they told me that I am in group 2. And this group 2, which is around 1,000 something people, I think it was 1,400 or something, 1,200 maybe, they go into a lottery, and I think 400 people out of them, or 350 people out of them, will get a place in the program. A lottery is like completely random, and based on that you get your ranking number assigned to you. So calculated out of 1,000 something people, the 300 or something whatever people who get the place, each person has equally 16 or 17% chance that they will get the place. So in theory, a person who is in the top 10% or even top 6%, following the results of the actual knowledge test that we all prepared for. So if you're in the top 10%, and also if you're in the bottom like 34% or 35%, so not the 33 like lowest, but just a bit higher, you still both have the same chance of getting in, and this chance is around 16%. Which is quite low, I must say. And then the next 2 days you just know your number, you know your percentage, and afterwards you get your ranking number just based on this random lottery. Unless you performed very well, you were in the top 5%, which I didn't. Right, and so I got my ranking number, it was 952, I think. And Amsterdam said before, like they sent an email or something, that last year statistics, people up to ranking number, I think 752 or 754, something in that area, still got a place, because people under the number 600, they are in like the waiting list. So 150 people rejected the place, but not 350 of them. So I did not get the place. So what do we learn from that? So either my flashcard method was wrong, and you should not use Anki, and you should not make flashcards for lectures and reading both, because maybe that was the case. Maybe that was the reason for me failing to get into the top 5%. Or maybe this university is just weird, and for some reason they make a selection test to test your knowledge and to test your learning abilities, and then for some reason they still make a random lottery, and maybe what we learn from that is that I should not have gone there, and I'm not going there. Die Wahrheit. Also, another thing about Uni of Amsterdam is that you can only apply once for one program ever in your life, so I can never again apply for English Psychology program at University of Amsterdam, which also doesn't really make sense to me, but maybe that's also a sign that it's a good thing that I didn't get in. And honestly, after I read the email with my percentages and the rules for lottery and everything and calculated the percentages, at first I was in shock. I was like, oh, so my plan to go there and my like whole vision of being there is not that certain anymore. But after, thinking about it for 2 days and just thinking about other possibilities, I wasn't sure anymore what I wanted more, to get in or not to get in. And now in retrospective, I am just so glad that it just turned out the way it did. And genuinely, I think that's just how it's supposed to be. And that's good. And I was just not meant to be there. And I am just so glad that I am now in the position that I'm in and that I did not get in there. That's just the final thing that we take out of this. But while editing this first part now of me talking about how I studied, that was long. I used to speak very slowly. I think I was really trying to sound very professional. I hope it was not too long. I hope maybe someone listened until here, and maybe it will help someone for their selection procedure. Who knows, okay? Maybe it will reach some people who need this, and it was not a waste of time to record that. Anyways, thank you very much. I love my, the ending, how I said bye and, thanks for listening. In the actual, in February when I was recording it, I sound just so cute. And I think it's adorable. So I'm just going to put that in here. I'm not going to say bye. She's going to say bye. But thanks for listening. Anyways, and I'm going to now give you over to the old me. Thank you for listening. That was my University of Amsterdam Selection diaries, and see you next week. Bye-bye.